Good morning and welcome to our Genesis Client Services webinar. My name's Amber Neely. I'm the Assistant Clinical Director here at Genesis, and I'm joined with one of my colleagues, Jordan Gates. She is our lead residential counselor. And so we are going to be talking about parenting today. Before we get into our topic, I just want to go through a few housekeeping items. So just a reminder, if you haven't watched one of our presentations before, that this is for educational purposes only, so it's not to be used in lieu of counseling. Also, we're going to talk about lots of different ideas, and it's going to be kind of generalized. So remember to consider your own situation and safety concerns before putting into practice any of the ideas that we talk about today. And going along with safety, also please be sure that you're watching this in a safe place where only safe people can hear. Also, remember to clear your browser history after watching this video if you suspect that there's someone who monitors your phone or computer. It might be helpful to watch this webinar with headphones in so you can make sure that nobody's listening to what you're watching. And then if you're watching with us live on Zoom and you need to leave early, just make sure you click on end and then leave meeting, and then you'll have to also close out of the Zoom page. So there's a couple of steps to exit out of Zoom. Regarding confidentiality, if you're watching with us live, we just ask that you do not use the chat feature on Zoom. If you do that, your name and comment will be seen by anybody who's watching the live video. We also are going to be posting these videos to our YouTube channel, and so we don't want your information to be public on the YouTube channel. If you are watching on YouTube, you shouldn't be able to leave any comments, but if for some reason that option is there, we just ask that you don't leave any comments, otherwise your comment will be seen by everyone else who watches the video. If you're in a crisis or you need help with emergency safety planning or you're looking for emergency shelter due to experiencing domestic violence perpetrated by an intimate partner, please call our 24-hour hotline at 214-946-4357. If you're not already a client of ours and you're interested in counseling with us at Genesis, give us a call at 214-389-7700. So if you have any questions about anything that we're saying today in this webinar, please contact me or Jordan. Our contact information is going to be at the end of this webinar. Again, we are not monitoring any questions left on our YouTube recordings, so just reach out to us directly. We're happy to go over any questions you might have or help you with any safety planning. Also, just wanted to share these hotline numbers with y'all. We know that with domestic violence, this is a really scary and traumatic event that's happening in your family. So again, you have our 24-hour hotline if you're needing shelter or support. We also have the National Domestic Violence Hotline. So maybe you're not in the Dallas area and you're needing some domestic violence resources. This hotline can help you with that. This is a 24-hour line. And then also we know that when women or when anyone experiences trauma, we sometimes have symptoms that include feelings of hopelessness or even suicidal thoughts. So if you're having any thoughts about wanting to harm yourself, please, you can call any of these hotlines, but we also have here the National Suicide Hotline that you can call. Okay, so we have been working on the book by Lundy Bancroft, When Dad Hurt Mom, and so defending your role as a mother. So before we jump into that, I just want to give you a little bit of information about this book. So how can this book help? This book can help you to understand the effects of domestic violence, helping your children to heal emotionally, can guide moms in providing children with the love, support, and positive role models that they need in the midst of this abuse that's going on. This also has an entire chapter dedicated to the court systems and custody cases and CPS involvement. So those can be really helpful for some women, and then also gives you ideas on how to help your children to feel good about themselves. We know that domestic violence impacts the entire family system, and everyone responds to trauma in a different way. And so this book has some really great ideas on how to support yourself and your family. So this is just a picture of the book. If you're interested in getting it, you can find it on Amazon. And just want to kind of go over the impact of domestic violence. So again, this book is helpful in gaining understanding of how a child's exposure to a man who abuses their mother sends shock waves throughout the family, right? So again, we know that children are really impacted when this is going on within their family. The entire system is disrupted. And so remembering that domestic violence includes threats, verbal abuse, humiliation, creates an atmosphere in which the mom is disrespected by the dad. Her voice is silent, she's bullied or treated like a servant. This brings a lot of confusion and distress to children. This also can create some tense relationship between the mother and child. So if the child is seeing that mom is treated in these ways, they may believe that that's how they're supposed to treat the mother. They may not trust the mother, and so there can be some tense relationships happening. There's also oftentimes we see division amongst siblings, right? There might be one sibling that's really compliant with dad, and there might be another sibling that is more aligned with mom. And so sometimes the abusive dad might use that as another way to continue perpetrating this abuse throughout this family system. I'm going to let Jordan take over and talk about these next couple of slides.
Hi, everybody. So in this, what we're focusing on today is one of Lundy's chapters that talks about kind of the pros and cons and that difficult decision if you decide to leave your abusive partner or if you decide to stay. This can be a really touchy subject, right? Because everyone's situations are so different. And so I would definitely recommend, if you are considering this, please reach out to a counselor or safety plan, explore all of your options, seek that support. Because again, it can be such a challenging decision to make. Always keep in mind that each situation is unique, and leaving an abusive partner, like I said, requires safety planning. So like Amber mentioned, our resources and contact information is available. Messages from other people about this decision can be very mixed and unrealistic. And so sometimes hasty messages can become unbearable or overwhelming and make it seem easier to simply survive day to day. This can leave you to feeling paralyzed or trapped and create hopelessness and an inability to think clearly or find a solution. So this again is why it's really important to seek that support from an advocate or counselor or someone you feel safe around. Also, messages from media, television can be very confusing, and it places more emphasis on kind of how I guess perceives what it can look like and be like for children when parents divorce. And so again, it's really important to remember that each situation is very unique, and when it involves domestic violence, it can be a very dangerous decision as well.
Yeah, and just to add on, we know that leaving an abusive relationship is the most dangerous time for a woman. And so that can be something that maybe you feel or you recognize, but then when you're explaining it to your friend or your family member, they're maybe giving you these responses like, if it's so bad, then just leave. And we know that it's not as simple as that. This is a big decision. You don't enter into a relationship with somebody knowing that they're going to be abusive, right? They don't start the relationship in that way. And so there are feelings there. So lots of different emotions and also lots of safety stuff like Jordan said. And so really making sure that when you're making these decisions about leaving, that you are getting some support from us or the National Hotline or other professionals that are experienced with this, with domestic violence specifically.
So this slide has a whole lot of information, but this slide really talks about common worries that women experience when they're thinking about this decision, and some really common barriers that women face when thinking about leaving their abusive partners. So that first part talks about how it can feel like there's no one out there. We know that domestic violence is extremely isolating, right? And the abusive partner does that on purpose. And so maybe you don't have those supportive, safe people to reach out to anymore. It can also, right, there can also be a lot of shame and embarrassment around it. It's really hard to let people in to what's going on in your life. It can even be dangerous to let other people in, and so it can be, again, scary to reach out for help, especially when it's people in your personal life. And so again, that's why it is can be really helpful to reach out to a counselor or advocate that doesn't have that personal relationship with you. Another common worry, right, is it can seem like there's no way to survive economically. And we know this is a really common reason why women decide to stay in the relationship, because maybe you're staying home with the children, or maybe your abusive partner does not let you have any access to finances, or maybe you have dual income, and that is, right, makes it easier to be able to provide and support your children. It can seem really scary, right? And sometimes that decision even means, will I be able to feed my children tomorrow? Will I be able to clothe them? And so again, this is a really common worry and a really reasonable reason that people would stay in this situation. Another one is he seems like he might react dangerously or has made explosive threats. So just like Amber was saying, right, we know when you leave that relationship, it is the most dangerous time. The partner loses control over their family, and so we do know that they are going to escalate. We also know that throughout your relationship, maybe the abusive partner has made a lot of threats to harm you or harm the children, take away your children, make your life really, really difficult if you decide to leave. And so this can be extremely frightening. And so again, definitely reach out to an advocate or counselor to safety plan before making that decision. Also, it is important to think about, right, court cases and custody and all of that can be really, really challenging, and there are resources out there for you. And so important to know that those are available, but those also can be another common worry to consider when making this decision. Another one, right, is children can be angry and heartbroken, right? So there weren't all bad times, there was good times, or maybe the children really like being around their dad, right? Because sometimes dad is really fun and engaging, and sometimes he's really scary and dangerous. And so the children, right, change is hard for everybody. And so maybe you feel that pressure from the children to stay in that relationship. And then that last one is you're simply scared. Again, change is really hard. Abuse is a traumatic, right? It's ongoing trauma. It's a traumatic experience. And so it's a really hard decision. When you're living in that household, you're constantly, like we've talked about in previous webinars, in that survival state. And so it can be really hard to access the part of your brain to plan accordingly and to get out of that dangerous situation. And also it can be hard to reach out to a place like Genesis or another safe place to reach out and make that first step into finding out what resources are available. Do you have anything to add, Amber?
No, I think you covered everything. Thank you, Jordan.
And again, this slide is just gonna, again, talk about the pros and cons specifically for your children about leaving that abusive partner, right? So some potential benefits, and again, these are not guaranteed. When you leave, it's not gonna be this immediate relief. Well, it could be immediate relief of safety, but there's still going to be this healing process that has to take place that unfortunately does not happen overnight. But some potential benefits could be, right, your children are not going to see you being directly abused anymore. So maybe you're still experiencing abuse through messages or through the ways that he's still affecting your parenting, but the kids will not every day be seeing you experience that abuse in your household. The kids can get relief from the fighting and the tension, right? And so maybe the kids get that immediate relief of their body feeling safer and knowing they're safer. You are setting that example, right? That you do not deserve to be abused and treated the way you are being. Your parenting can improve over time, right? Because you, he is not putting you down anymore in front of the kids. When you're with him, right, every action you take is to keep yourself and your children safe. And so when you do leave, you are able to parent more in the ways that you want to parent. You can feel relief from fear and danger, right? When you go to sleep at night, if you have found a safe place to go, right, you don't live in fear that he is going to hurt you. The children themselves do not have to live in fear anymore of themselves being verbally, physically, or even sexually abused by the abusive partner. The children have the opportunity to heal emotionally, right? So they have more safe opportunities to talk about their feelings, talk to mom about what happened and what's going to happen, and talk about the future. And then of course your children and you have that opportunity to mend that relationship. Like we've talked about in future webinars, we know so much that dad's parenting and dad's abuse affects you and your child's relationship. So now you have that opportunity to even be able to just have more one-on-one time together. So the potential complications of leaving is, of course, the children may miss their father and they may have mixed feelings about the decision to leave. Kids can feel really envious of normal families, right? And so what we know is that when kids go to school and they're sitting at the lunch table, they're not talking about their parents going through a divorce or the hard things. So they can feel really alone, like they're the only child whose parents aren't together or who are going through this. Of course, there can be financial hard times ahead, like I talked about. Maybe there is an increased fear or danger, right? And so when you are with that abusive partner, you can, you know where they're at normally. It's easier to see what their next move is. And so when you are away from them, it can be scarier. It's just a different type of safety planning, right? Because you don't know what they're doing if they're trying to find you. Oftentimes, depending on your situation, if court is involved or custody changes, your children may have to see dad. There could be supervised visits, there could be unsupervised visits, depending on the situation. Everyone's situation is unique. And kids could feel angry at you for leaving, right? Maybe their school changed. Their friend group changed, right, because of distance, or they just missed their old bed, whatever it is. There can be a lot of grief and loss there, but healing, of course, is possible through all of those changes. And lastly, again, just to reiterate some really important things, every situation is unique and different. And so every child is different. Each child has a unique set of feelings about his or her family. Some children thrive after getting the abuser out of the house, while others have tremendous difficulty adapting to all of these changes and possible disruptions. Some children are fearful that he may show up, that he even, right, if there's a lot of threats with sometimes abusive partners threaten to kill themselves if you leave, or they are worried that dad can't take care of himself, or he may start to turn to substances to cope, right? And so children can have a lot of worries, and we know children hear a lot more and pick up on a lot more things happening than we think. And then, right, some children feel really relieved that they're in a safe place, or that they're not seeing dad anymore, or that they can't be hurt. Getting away from your abusive partner can help your children, but the benefits are not automatic. So again, like we talked about the pros and cons, and knowing the healing process takes time, especially for children to process through those emotions and changes. Your needs and your children's needs are really important. So again, really consider what's best for you and your family when making these difficult decisions. And of course, seeking assistance with the process when going through the process of making these decisions about your future, and even reaching out because you can learn more about a lot of different resources or ways that a place like Genesis can support you through your healing process.
Great. Yes. So I know we shared a lot of information and a lot of different scenarios. And so just want to really reiterate that every situation is different. And so, you know, your situation is unique. So please reach out to us if we can support you in any way with making these really, really difficult decisions. And also just wanted to highlight on the fact that your needs are important too, right? And so I know this is about parenting and we're talking about your kids, but a part of that is making sure that you're taking care of yourself. And so I just really want to highlight that your needs are important. Just by taking this time to watch this webinar, you're taking a really brave step toward healing for yourself and your family. Your role in your child's life as their mother is really, really important and really going to be crucial to their development. They're very lucky to have you as a mom and have a mom that's seeking this information and seeking ways to improve and to help her family in such a really difficult time. And so just remember that mothers hold their children's hands for a short while, but their hearts forever. We are so glad that you joined us today. Thank you so much for watching. Again, we shared a lot of hard information, a lot of information today. So please call us if you have any questions. Here's our contact information. Again, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next week.